I am Johan Eriksson. Um, I'm the developer of this game. I have spent my last 20 years working as a teacher in game design, specifically interested in experimental game design and systems design and iterative development processes and testing, things like that. I have a background before that and during that in 2D graphics. Um, I've made a couple of games over the last 5-10 years that I publish for free on itch.io. I'm the sole designer of all my games. They are hobby projects. I do them just because I love the craft of making games. Um, Oceania is the latest one that I've made. I've spent about 3 years. I'll talk a bit about the development process later on. And it's a game that is heavily inspired by George Orwell's book 1984. It is about a dystopian future. It's about oppression. It's about states, authoritarianism, and who we are within those things. It's about hope. It's about finding connection to those that you love, and those connections within the context of the dystopian oppression, how fragile that can be and how dangerous it can be. Um, it's a very, in one sense of the word, a heavy game, but it's also, I've received feedback from my playtesters through the years, that it's also a very beautiful game that gives profound player experiences. So I really do trust the design of this game. In this video, I'll go through some background story for why I made the game. I'll provide a short, brief game overview. I'll look at the development process and talk a bit about my design philosophy. Possibly provide you with some teasers and sneak peeks of the Kickstarter that I'm doing right now. And then, yeah, that's it. So to start with, this whole game began with a Reddit poll that I read. It was a poll that basically asked the question, which world or setting will never make a good tabletop RPG? And the winner of that poll was George Orwell's 1984. So I basically thought to myself, challenge accepted. I'm going to make this game. And I was in parallel to finding this Reddit poll, also writing another system called the control system that's also published on itch.io. And the control system is basically an emotional tabletop engine that allows players to have, instead of attributes, they have feelings. It's a system that focuses on a reverse type of resolution, whereas if your values don't come into play, you succeed with what you want to do. If any of your emotions stop you from doing what you want to do, you get complications, basically. So I was in parallel developing that system, and I thought, hey, maybe that's a good starting point for us for doing Orwell. And then, on a more personal note, it's also about, in a very abstract way, I have to say, like an extrapolated type of meta level thing. I just realized after having written rules for about a year that this is very much about how I've felt being a political activist in Sweden over the last 20 years, where basically, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but basically the repression comes in the form of assimilation or an impossibility to touch anything concretely and make any bigger changes. In addition to that, I also, I mean, as most people did in high school, I read Orwell. I like Orwell to some extent. I think he was a bit of a douchebag, but he still, uh, I mean, his politics, his way of relating himself to the Spanish Civil War and the syndicalists and anarchists in Spain during that period, actually going there and volunteering, resonated with me to a high degree. His thoughts about what authoritarianism is related to what I'm thinking. So that's also one reason why I didn't shy away from the challenge. Yeah, I think that's about as much background as I'm going to give you right now. The game overview, well, to start with, there's a bunch of things that I do in this game that are very unconventional to some degree. There is no resolution mechanic. You don't roll any die to see if you succeed with doing whatever you set out to do. As the resistance players, you say what you want to do, and unless Big Brother enacts a consequence, you do it, and that's it. You have achieved your goal. There is one limitation to your agency as a resistance player, and that's that your act has to be doable within 10 minutes. So that's the only actual rule like regulating what you can try to achieve. It also has to make some narrative sense. So in essence, it's a very free-formy type of experience. That doesn't mean you don't roll dice. You roll dice to see if your emotions allow you to do the thing you're doing without breaking face or without giving people possibly observing you an inclination to what you're actually thinking about things. You have values that regulate your feelings, and in every situation you come up against, you will have to check your values to see if you need to test your emotions, etc. You have a stress factor. So if you are stressed or you have suffered some kind of psychological stress, you might fumble, and that's also a die. So that adds the aspect of possibly failing an act that you're trying to do. You, as a resistance player, you take on a class. A class can be one of three classes, and in difference to, for example, D&D, the class is basically socioeconomic status within the world instead of a work functionality or a set of skills, because that's not really what it is. Each class has, however, class acts that allow for certain type of things to go less noticed by Big Brother. There is a heavy inspiration of, or from, I should say, from roguelikes, in that in a campaign you're supposed to die, and you're supposed to continue on in the same story with a new character, and you're supposed to die again, and you're supposed to take on yet another character, and you go through the game in this way. You're expected to die basically, and for each life that you live, you change the conditions for how your next character enters into this fiction. Your character that you currently play has a pool of friends and family members that you are exploring through play. And when your character dies, you will choose one of those characters to continue on as, so to speak. And then there is one player who will take on the role of Big Brother. Big Brother being the state, the thought police, the oppression. This role is not to be confused with a game master, since basically Big Brother player does not have all the responsibilities that a game master usually has. Instead, one can say that Big Brother almost plays like a strategy game, doing investigation on the resistance players, rolling dice, hidden dice to see if he sees what the players are doing at any given moment. If they are observed by Big Brother, he might gain a point. That point ends up in a pool, which he then can use to purchase or invest in consequences for the player actions. These consequences can be anything from changing something small in the narrative to just unsettle the players, or actually bringing them in for interrogation, which often ends in a vaporization, that is the removal of the character from their life, their context, their history gets erased, everything. In addition to this, the Big Brother player also has a set of words, for example, that the resistance players may never use during play. If they do, you gain a point, etc. So basically, you're playing more like a board gamey type thing. Not really a board game because there is no board, but you get what I'm saying. It's more like a strategy point collection type game. There is something important here that I haven't yet mentioned. The narrative control of the world, all the non-played characters, family and friends, etc., is shared between all players and regulated through a rule system based on which classes are present in a scene or not. So there is a lot of you will role play your co-players, family and friends from time to time. Yeah, I think that's about as much as I want to say right now. No, there is one more thing. There is a system called notes connected to your character's stats that basically is that as a resistance player, at any given point, with the risk of getting caught doing it because it's illegal, it's a thought crime, you can write a note. And that means you write a note on a piece of paper and you basically can write anything within the diegetic world, within the narrative of the game. And whatever you write is true once. In order to use a note, you just have to have it on you. And whenever a situation arises where you want to make sure that your narrative truth is the truth, you play that note. In addition to that, you can hide notes. If you hide a note and you leave it around hidden and you die, a character picking it up after you've died gets hope. Hope is a value, a stat within the game. So basically that provides you with setting up future player characters for a better chance at doing more effective things. Yeah, I think that's it. From the playtesters, I've received a lot of praise for the type of relationship that you build with all your characters, all your family and friends, the other players, etc. It is also a game that's yielding really strong storytelling elements, so that could be good to know. The development process of this game has been over 3 to 4 years, and that challenge, the game design challenge that I've tried solving, is how do I make dystopia meaningful? right? How do I make bleak outcomes still feel good? This is in part where I found inspiration from Mörkborg, for example, um, or other games, but the Mörkborg specifically has this quality. It's all about the story you weave while you are playing, right? The end point is not really the point, as it's not really the point in life either. Um, it's gone through 3 rigorous testing processes, 3 months each, um, with approximately 150 playtesters as the final amount of playtesters. Many of them has been participating from playtest period 1 into period 3, but also a few newcomers for each testing phase. In parallel to this iterative process of testing and then refining the rules and then testing and then refining the rules, I've also been writing my master thesis last year. And it's about how to translate an author's voice into a rule system. As soon as the game released as the free version in December last year, I started developing the solo rules, which is the last piece of the puzzle that I just laid. As soon as the solo rules were done, I got to actually checking out how to make a good printed book and Kickstarter and finding the illustrator for the surplus edition, which is the limited edition, etc. So yeah, that's that. What more? Well, design philosophy. At the center of this whole game design, there is this thought about giving players as much agency as they can possibly have. Some kind of almost total freedom to narratively invent whatever they want. At the same time, I've been playing a lot with how to limit that so that it becomes an interesting experience. This is where the die rolling and the resolution mechanic lack comes in. In essence, this emotion system forces you sometimes to do things that you didn't want to do, or makes it impossible to do exactly the thing you wanted to. It basically throws wrenches into your cogs, so to speak. It sabotages for you. And the choice to not have a resolution mechanic, basically it comes from what is the focus of this game, right? The focus is the social aspects. And it's not really about if you're strong or agile. It's not an adventuring game to that extent. It's a game about our lives. It's a game about how we cope with the situations and figure things out together, how we form relationships and how we break relationships, and it's all about those things. I've had debates about whether or not this game is GM-less or not, but I think the main point that's important there is that the role of Big Brother is so different from what you expect a GM to be, so that it confuses you if you think that you will be playing as the GM. And that's why I call it GM-less. In the book or in the rule book, you might notice that there is very little setting text. The point of this is that I really, really, really want to allow any group to imagine their dystopia together. I don't want to define which oppressions they'll face. I don't want to define the technologies of this world. I don't want to define any of these things. Your imagination, as you sit there together inventing this, will far surpass anything I could dictate for you. So this is why. So for this next section, we're going to take a few sneak peeks at some artwork that's in the works from Mika Edström, an amazing colleague of mine, a teacher in graphics at Uppsala University, long-term illustrator for games, game developer on an indie level, an amazing person. And we're going to look at a few of those illustrations now. Here's an illustration showing an origami bird with a message from a resistance character left for others to discover and in some public place. I think it's amazing. It really captures some kind of fragile vulnerability and still this type of hope that I really wish this game actually brings you. And here we have an illustration showing the style that the city will be portrayed in. This specific one is a very like architect drawing styled illustration. I think Mika's done a really good job capturing some kind of utilitarian surveillance state essence here. I think it's amazing. And then we have yet one more city illustration, which really captures my imagination. Yeah, I hope you like them. I also want to show you two layouted spreads from the upcoming book. And I won't talk that much about them. I'm just going to show them to you. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with them. I'm sure they will go through small minor changes and updates before the actual publication of this, but this is where it's at right now. And oh yeah, here are the character sheets. They are available for free on the itch page, itch.io/Jocher dash is it dash? I can't remember. I'll post a link below in the comments or in the description. Right now the game is on Kickstarter. The campaign is open. You can go pledge in order to get a copy of the book. And of course, if we meet the goal, it should be delivered to you by August, is my calculation right now. The book will be A5 format, a hardcover book. It's going to be full color, but most of the pages are going to be fairly monochrome or like almost black and white. But it contains color elements, as you can see in the preview pages I showed you. It will include the solo play rules. It will include the full, slightly revised rule book that's also available for free already. So if you don't want to like not know what game you're buying, you can go check out the free rule set called the Auster edition. And basically it's the exact same rules, the thing that I'm updating for the Kickstarter is um, minor like grammar tweaks and proofreading additions, um, and some tonality changes because I realized I wanted to update, for example, the intro text, but that's just minor things. The rules are all the same. Um, so yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you today. Thank you all for watching, and I'm so happy that I finally get to share Oceania 2084 with you. And I really hope you like it. And if you do, or if you don't, please let me know in the comments. I would love to get some conversations going, and hear what you're thinking about this, because this is really a labor of love for me. Um, yeah. Thank you. Bye bye. Oh, if you have anything you would like to hear me talk about when it comes to game design or a role-playing game design, my own game systems, for example, leave a comment down below, and I'll try to accommodate that. It could be good to know that I've been, like I said in the beginning, I've been teaching game design since 2004. So I do have a lot of expertise in this area, even though I'm a fairly unknown game designer. Um, Thank you so much. Take care, everyone, and I hope you had a good listen.